That was a track from Howard Shore's soundtrack to Spotlight, which we're going to talk about. But first, a clip. And in this clip, Liev Schreiber's just taken over at the Boston Globe. He sits down with John Slattery and Michael Keaton to find out why they're not doing enough about this investigation.
So, judging from what I've read, it doesn't seem like we've done a very thorough investigation into the Gagin case. Is that right?
No, it's not. We looked hard at Keaton. David Armstrong for Metro, Michael Paulson for Religion.
Okay, but just so I understand, beyond our daily coverage, we haven't committed any long-term investigative resources to the question of whether or not Cardinal Law knew about this.
No, we haven't.
And that's the kind of thing your team would do.
Spotlight? Well, yeah, but we're still prospecting the Boston PD story I told you about.
Could you set that aside?
We could.
Marty, in past Spotlights had success in large part because they picked their own projects.
Would you consider picking this one?
That was a clip from Spotlight, which we are going to talk about right now.
So, Tom McCarthy as a director has been... I mean, it's fair to say that last year wasn't a very good year for him because he was The Cobbler, which is regarded by some as the worst film of the year, and it was... We didn't see it.
No.
Probably thankfully, to
Joe,
be honest.
you've seen some of his other stuff, I gather?
I've seen The Station Agent.
Yeah.
I think it's his first film with Peter Dinklage in it.
Yeah, so he's known mainly for those smaller indie films. He also did the Game of Thrones pilot, the unaired one, which was supposedly so terrible, which is why it would never saw the light of day, because it was atrocious. So they've recast and reshot it all, so that's not a good omen. But he's back here with what is recorded by many as the film of the year, so the direct polar opposite of last year with the worst film of the year to the best film of the year.
The last best picture we needed to see.
Yeah,
the
last one released. So that sort of completes the menagerie of best picture nominees that we had to see. So Spotlight is a film that is a true story, telling the story of the Pulitzer Prize-winning Boston Globe paper investigation of the Spotlight team that has basically caused the massive crisis within this institution. You know, the Catholic Church is a massive presence, especially in the American states. And
well, interestingly, you know, Tom McCarthy is a sort of Catholic.
Really?
And so is Michael Keaton.
Oh, there you go.
I was just listening to them this morning talking about how, you know, it was important that they, you know, did this film. They couldn't sort of shy away from it.
No.
It didn't affect them. You know, it was obviously difficult for them making a film about their religion, but it's an important story that needs telling.
I don't think any religion advocates this.
No,
nothing at all.
No.
You know, but so this tells the story of the Spotlight team within the Boston Globe, who are reporting the allegations of abuse within the Catholic Church. They did an investigation on it a while back. However, that was dropped sort of unceremoniously. However, now the new editor has come in, played by Liev Schreiber, who has decided that he wants to start up the investigation again because there are more allegations and more people coming out with more stories. So Spotlight are put back on the case to investigate a cover-up, perhaps that was decades long, that has got everyone from Boston's religious, legal, and government establishment, and that just everyone is involved with this. And it is an ensemble team work. It is absolutely an ensemble teamwork because Tom McCarthy. I mean, I've been talking about the fact that would this film prove that Tom McCarthy will be a worthy Best Director picture? And I, to be honest, I think maybe now that I've been ruminating on it, I do think that he would be a good shout for Best Director because, to his credit, he does let, as you mentioned when we're coming out the cinema, he does let the story breathe, and that is extremely a big factor of why there's. It's not particularly flashy. No, it's
if
not showy at all.
If it was, you'd sort of feel a bit weird about it. I think a lot of people, some people said TV movie.
Yeah,
I think no. I think it's got the sort of heft and weight of this and the sort of cinematic feel of it because it's such a big impact on the story. Like, you know, the story has such a big impact. I mean, it'll work on TV when it gets there.
To its extreme benefit, Tom McCarthy makes sure that everyone is kept in the story at all times. You know, there's nothing flashy, there's nothing showy, there's nothing overly dramatic within his direction. It is all centered on the story and telling this story within the powerful actors that it has, and that the story writes itself essentially, isn't it? I mean, this is a story that and it looks like it needed to be told because this is decades long, and it's frustration and anger and certainly disgust, which all builds up, and the entire cast just works beautifully. I mean, it is a true Cirque du Soleil of brilliant actors. Just the whole thing. I mean, you've got Michael Keaton as the lead of the Spotlight team, Walter Robbie Robinson, who is sort of, I mean, it's a weathered role for Michael Keaton. You know, he's very sort of, he's prolific in what he does. He's casting an eye on everything. He is the man that's overseeing the whole thing. And then you've got his team of sort of, the rest of the Spotlight team. It's a 4-person team with Mark Ruffalo as Michael Risened. I can't even. what was it?
Can't remember how you
It was
pronounce it.
Resendez. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. Yeah,
Resendez.
You've got Rachel McAdams as Sasha Pfeiffer, and then
So did you apologise to Mark Resendez?
yeah, I did. Yeah, I know, but like I
Sorry,
don't
Mark.
like butchering names. We always do it. And then Brian Darcy James as Matty Carroll, and
Who shouldn't be overlooked.
no, he shouldn't be overlooked at all. So that's the 4-person team, and as the story develops, I think that is a big reason why I loved it so much, because you see the extent of it sort of bubble up, and like, wow, this is a massive thing that is happening, and this is, it's dark and it's horrendous, but they don't play it sort of depressingly in a way that it could. It's just sort of unveiling the story upon itself, where you begin to see the extent of the absolute abominationable crimes that are within this establishment that have gone on untouched for decades, because nobody wants to address the problem as it is. And that all builds up as the actors sort of discover the story for themselves, and it is really, really sort of summed up by Mark Ruffalo's performance, which is full of righteous fury and just general.
There's a lot of shots where you've got Ruffalo just sort of standing and observing. I think that's really poignant when Silent Night comes on. That sort of montage. You've got him at the back in the church watching the kids in the choir. And some could say that's quite an obvious shot to have, but it works. I mean, with that music, the way it's played, the tone of the whole thing is. I mean, you can see he's very passionate, but the character and Ruffalo obviously very passionate about the subject.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can see it, and then I think Mark Ruffalo, despite this absolutely being a cast that is all working together in perfect harmony, I think he stands out as the MVP of this for me.
I think Rachel McAdams as well.
Oh yeah, Rachel McAdams and
I was sort of blown away by her sort of compassion, the way she sits down with all of the sort of and just talks to him like a normal person. I mean, the descriptions of the activities in the film are they're pretty graphic. And
and that is in a sense why it does feel like a TV movie at times, because it does let the camera sit and watch them tell their stories, and then with those momentary cutbacks to McAdams or Ruffalo as they are interviewing their people, and it lets the story speak for itself. And that is why Tom McCarthy probably does deserve a serious think about for getting that Best Director nod, because he does let his actors breathe and he does let the story breathe, and everyone who comes in to tell these stories, it lets you see for yourself without any over dramatization that this is really, really bad, and this is something that has been corrupting and being toxic to the entire thing that is going on within the Catholic Church and rotting it from the core, And
Ryan's gone red.
But no, I mean, no, I just
Same colour as his shirt.
I do. Leave my pink shirt alone. Like, it's not one of me. I like it. It's a good casual shirt, right? But the whole cast just works so perfectly. I mean, Stanley Tucci's lawyer, and Mitchell Garabedian again, butchering that name. Butchering that name. Yeah, see, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place today. And Billy, and then Billy Crudup's sort of awfully slimy lawyer Eric McLeish, who's just always getting in the way, and he sort of sums up the whole thing that's going on, really. Just that everything that there's not willing to get into it because nobody wants to sort of dig up that worm that is going along. And it's just really, really.
This year's Best Picture nominees have got us really angry.
Oh God, they have got. I think it did genuinely make me angry that this has happened, and so many people let this go. I'm turning to Mark Ruffalo here. There you go. But I mean, it's absolutely. But they will let it happen. But it's just terrific to watch. I mean, it's a strong story centered and grounded by extremely powerful performances and experienced, tight direction that lets the story and the characters breathe real people breathe within themselves. Yeah. And it's a real accomplishment for them.
Obviously the people depicted in the film, they've all sort of spoken to how they've enjoyed the film and thought it was nailed. Michael Keaton's Walter Robinson, he was just saying how he thought he got it perfect.
Yeah, you could easily have made the material baity, I suppose, but that they make sure that you really.
It felt very true. It didn't feel Oscar baity at any point. Joe,
I respect the film mainly, of course, for its neutrality, which is for a subject like this to not be. I mean, there's obviously with Mark Ruffalo's character, there's like some anger towards it, but it does what journalists should do. The film itself, in the direction and the way it plays the story out, just the facts, everything, and it's brilliantly done. But direction wise, the only flashy shot I can kind of think of, the only flashy shots in themselves are really important. It's the shot where one of the abused men like when he was a boy playing with his kid, and there's that zoom out with the church in the background
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's absolutely fantastic.
Uh-huh.
I think when Brian Darcy James goes to the house as well, when he finds out there's one on the street.
Yeah, that and the last scene with Stanley Tucci's character is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely heartbreaking. Even in the credits as well.
Oh yeah.
Just like absolutely fantastic.
And
film.
that Silent Night scene that you speak of is just, it's wow.
It's incredible.
Oh, it's full of incredible scenes throughout a really, really tight narrative. That it breathes so well. I love it.
Yes.
Really do.
Spotlight is a recommend.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. But
need to see
yeah,
this.
take deep breaths before you see it because you will get angry.
Yeah. There are lighter choices available, but certainly if you want something, if you want to be really blown away by something, this is one.
Close to The Big Short for anger levels.
Oh yeah. Spotlight is available at